Does the seller really get to choose who to sell their house to? Is a question I'm often asked with a skeptical edge.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.
We've created for you free access to over 403 inside track episodes on making house home, insider tips, and even things related to just how to live and thrive in your own space. And you have access to them anytime, anywhere, except right now it's a little more limited. So we're excited that we get to educate you on the go or when you're living at home. Staying at home.
Yeah. So I think the seller always has the choice of who they want to sell to.
Yeah. And in this episode, we're actually going to learn that sometimes that choice, you may choose yourself to buy the house. What? Yeah. When you're in the process of negotiating, every time you do a counter offer, in that moment, you've actually just bought your house back.
For the price you're asking the buyer to pay.
Right. And if the buyer says yes, well, okay, now they've chosen that they will buy it and you've chosen to agree. And yet if they say no, you've just now made a choice to buy it again.
Yeah, you've said that that's the value of your house to you.
To you.
And you're willing to buy it in an auction. Think of it as an auction.
Yeah.
The buyer has said they're willing to pay a certain price, and you're saying, no, we want this price. That's really saying you're outbidding the buyer for your house. Now, sometimes the buyer will come back and match your bid, and sometimes they won't.
Mm-hmm. So one of the ways to choose is to decide how committed you are to actually selling your house. Knowing what your reason, your rationale, the what's below the surface for you will actually help you determine whether you will allow yourself to buy it again or not. Right? And in this market, and every market over the last 31 years has been a different market. They tend to go in 7-10-year cycles, and yet we've had little blips that only lasted 90 days, other blips that lasted, maybe they're not blips if they last a year, but certainly there's been a shift in a lot of different markets. And so the strategies that you're going to use as a seller in determining who's going to buy your house, you or someone else, are constantly shifting. And that's why it can be nice to have somebody on your side who's experienced all the different markets.
Right. And when we say who is going to buy your house, really it comes around pricing and conditions in the offer and that kind of thing. It doesn't come to, oh, I want this particular person because they're better for my neighbor, typically.
And yet I've seen it. Because one of the strategies that we'll often use when we're working with a buyer is write a personal letter. Introduce yourself, because you can tell that this particular house and these particular people that live in this house look like there's some alignment and that there may be some interest in why you're buying and who you are that's buying the home.
Maybe they've been there for a long time and they brought their children up there, and you have children and you want to bring your children up there. That kind of commonality will sometimes bring some favor.
Especially if you have a couple of offers that are similar. If you have a couple of offers that are similar, then the who actually comes down to who are the people. And so as much as we have this level of confidentiality that we get to create and must create in the real estate industry, if the buyer would like to share that information with you, then that's an option. Part of the who process that we actually attempt to eliminate a little, when we're representing you as a seller, we actually attempt to eliminate a little bit of that exposure by allowing us as your realtor to present the offers and encouraging you not to have others present directly to you, because there may be something that's said that you really like that causes you to maybe not make the best decision because you've just been swayed by something that 10 minutes later really would not be of interest to you or really impact you.
Right.
Right?
Now, I've also had sellers choose between an investor or a contractor who's thinking of tearing down their property and building something
Versus a family.
versus a family moving into it. I've seen that happen.
Lots. Right? So the who, we will attempt to get it. If it matters to you, we get as much information as we can from the other parties. Right? Whether we're dealing with one offer or we're dealing with a bunch of offers. And then the whole idea of getting more than asking. The who can also be in relation to the certainty of this buyer versus exposing it more fully on the market, but not having a certainty of any buyer.
Sort of the bird in a hand is better than two in the bush.
Right. So in this market where we've had so much competition, where it's possible a buyer has put offers in on 10 properties, 15 properties, 5 properties, and lost out again and again and again, they may be willing to pay you more than asking and be willing to pay you a premium even to know that they're the only ones you're talking to.
Right. And you can get that through properties that are not on the market yet, or properties that for whatever reason, for privacy reasons or that type of thing, they're listed exclusively.
Right. And exclusively doesn't mean we won't cooperate with other realtors. What it means, it's not on the multiple listing service. So we have a secret list where we've got properties that we know are coming on the market, but they're not quite ready and we haven't finalized all the documents maybe, or the seller's just not ready to let anyone in and so therefore doesn't want the address disclosed because maybe they're doing some decluttering or some redecorating or something and they just don't even want the risk of somebody coming in and them being tempted. That would be secret list.
Yeah.
And then we have the exclusive list, which is properties that we've already got signed. We already know what day they're going to launch, short of any unforeseen challenges or shifts. And yet we're really not wanting to expose it fully to the market because we're not ready to let the majority of people come and take a peek or even have had pictures done yet.
And I've had the case where there's still something to repair, some work being done, some flooring put in, whatever, painting done. And we may get a buyer that says, I don't care about that. I'm a contractor. I'll paint it, whatever. Can I get in? And sometimes we save the seller the time and effort of doing that repair.
And the money.
Because that contractor is willing to pay a premium price not to compete with other people once it's all done.
Right. And yet you're still getting the money you would have got in all probability, and you don't have to wonder. Right. So multiple offers, when we're dealing with those, which is obviously where it's kind of fun to choose most of the time, you are going to be looking at what's the price. That is going to be a driver.
Yeah.
Right. What are they offering me? That'll help determine the who. What are the conditions? And depending on where you're located right now and in what price point, there may be no conditions in terms of conditional on financing or building inspection. Lots of inspections are happening. And then there's the terms. What do you have to do before closing? Potentially could be a term. And then there's the inclusions and the exclusions. And then there's the closing date. And then there's the deposit. So we will highlight all of those things when we're looking at multiples just to help you determine who you'd like to choose to be the owner of your house.
That's true.
Ask one more time or maybe twice when you're dealing with multiples to see if people want to increase or the price or reduce their terms or conditions. Is an amazing thing that we've been doing a lot. Right? So thanks for growing alongside the Decker team. We are grateful and passionate about being your partners in making phenomenal decisions as you move forward.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.